So I'm going to do an update on the video that I did with regards to Trevor Doyle's arrest in Puerto Rico on the charges of attempted enticement of a minor. He was arrested on an FBI by the FBI through a sting by their joint child exploitation and human trafficking task force on Wednesday. In Puerto Rico. They moved in and arrested him on a beach in Isla Verde, Puerto Rico. Now he's being held in San Juan. He went before a U.S. magistrate this morning for his preliminary and detention hearing, and he's being held without bail in San Juan until his next court appearance, which was not given the date for that. Now, I want to speak about a number of aspects of this case that I find, some of it I find very disturbing, but I'm going to speak about it a little bit here. Now, through the course of my research for this story, I stumbled across some claims saying that Mr. Doyle and his wife were actually members of a swinging community here in the city, Fredericton, and if that is the case, then they're consenting adults, and that's entirely their life, and more power to them. But for the sake of posterity, I do want to make sure that all of the aspects of this case are presented, so that I can make most people aware of every aspect of the case without having to go to a bunch of different websites. So that's my reason for making this video. There's actually talk of Mr. Doyle's wife Lisa actually being knowledgeable of Mr. Trevor Doyle's extramarital liaisons, and not only was she knowledgeable about these extramarital relations that he's been having, but she was actually fond of hearing about these types of things that he's been doing outside of their marriage. I guess apparently they had somewhat of an open marriage by a lot of people's standards. It would, if that was the case, what's being said is true, then yeah, they did have an open marriage, and as I said, that's their prerogative. If that's how they want to live their life, then very best. But as I said before, I want to make everybody aware of a lot of things that are going on in this case that people aren't hearing about. So now, in the FBI's affidavit regarding the sting that resulted in Mr. Doyle's arrest, they speak about Mr. Doyle sending a message to the decoy stating that he was waiting for his roommate to fall asleep, and then once his roommate fell asleep, then he would arrange for a liaison. He would bring cab fare to and from their meeting place for the decoy, whom he assumed was a 13-year-old girl. And they arranged to meet on Isla Verde, where he was actually arrested. He told the decoy to flash your phone screen on the beach so I'll know that it's you. And when he arrived at the beach, it was in the early hours of Wednesday that he was arrested. He did, the decoy flashed the cell phone. When he walked towards it, that's when the FBI moved in and grabbed him, and he stated right from jump that he knew what he was doing was wrong, and that's all fact. That's factual. Okay. Now, regardless of whether their marriage was in fact an open marriage, Mr. Doyle and his wife, I could only assume that his wife wouldn't agree with him chasing around underage girls, in the hopes of obtaining sexual gratification. That could only, I want to believe that wasn't the case. I don't know these individuals on a personal level, but I want to believe that wasn't the case. There's a number of threads on Reddit about this story, and one of the threads goes on to speak about how last year Mr. Doyle and his wife had a break-in at their home, and there was some there was some video footage that they had of them having threesomes in their home or elsewhere, and these videos had been stolen in the break-in, during the break-in. So if someone comes forward and leaks those onto the internet, I mean, that could cause a pretty big media shitstorm, as well as a lot of trouble for any type of with regards to the legalities of his defense that he may be trying to build. I can only assume that it could be detrimental to his attempts to try to maintain some level of innocence in this matter. And a lot of these allegations about the house being broken into last year and the videotapes being stolen of them having threesomes, and the fact that they were in an open marriage and members of this swingers community in the city here, these are all unconfirmed reports, and they should be treated as such and taken with a grain of salt. And yeah, so that's basically what you should probably, you know, assume when you hear these things, is that anybody hearing them should be taking them with a grain of salt, and not taking them for gospel straight off the Bible or anything like that. Now, Trevor Doyle's wife actually worked at the SPCA here in Fredericton, and he had a segment on his show called Wet Nose Wednesday, and he was a spokesperson for the SPCA, so he had this segment where they would showcase an animal that was up for adoption at our local SPCA here in the city, and they called that segment Wet Nose Wednesday. And I found it quite amusing that he was arrested actually on a Wednesday attempting to get a wet nose of his own in a different manner on Isla Verde down in Puerto Rico. So you know, take that however you want to take it, but I found it amusing. Now, if he is found guilty, the charges that he's facing, the attempted child enticement of a minor and whatnot, that's going to carry a minimum sentence of 10 years and a maximum sentence of life in prison. So that actually isn't a laughing matter. That could be very devastating to him and his family. And you know, if he did this, then he deserves to be in prison, and he's a disgusting individual for doing these types of things. And if he's innocent, by some grace of God, he didn't do this. It looks pretty bad for him at this point, but if he didn't, and he's able to prove that this is all a big misunderstanding, then you know, good on him for that. But I'm telling you right now, it don't look good. It does not look good. He's being held in a detention facility in San Juan, Puerto Rico right now. And as I said, they didn't they didn't set a date for his next appearance, or if they did, they didn't make it public. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see how this story plays out. But it's a bit of drama for our little city here, and that's that. And bubble a lot of you.